Okay, and the clock has struck 2. So I think we're ready to start. So Paul has asked, is this Tigger or Superman? Well, it's Super Tigger. So I've been in this. It's actually I'm doing the broadcast from my daughter's bedroom. By the way, those of you who don't know me, my name is Dion. I'm head up marketing at Solutions PT. Yeah, and with me is Super Tigger, my friend for the last, I don't know, 3 weeks since I've been in this room. We've converted my daughter's bedroom to also my study, so that's where we are. Okay, that's Tigger. With me today, we've got a couple of people. We've got Lisa, who's our host, that is pressing all the buttons. Hello, Lisa. And we've got Linda Patterson, one of our business development managers for the north of England. Good afternoon, Linda. You good?
Yeah, I'm well. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Still holding up.
Oh, absolutely.
And we've got Andy Graham, our solutions manager. Good afternoon, Andy.
Afternoon, Dion. You okay?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Yes. Yeah. It's a strange world we're living in. It has been a rapidly changing world. I mean, for everybody. This morning, a lot of people was upset with me. Said, "How the hell could we start? We only advertised this webinar this morning and we're hosting it this afternoon." Well, nobody warned us about the coronavirus that was going to happen. And I suppose, Linda, a lot of our customers has been in the same position.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the feedback that I'm getting from customers in the north is that actually they're doing really well, considering all the changes that they've had to put in place with social distancing within the facility. But I'm finding that working with a lot of food and beverage customers, customers who feed into that supply chain and also feed into the pharmaceutical supply chain, they've seen a significant ramp up in production. And that does put a strain on the way that they work. I mean, obviously, they're very happy to have this ramp up in production, but they're having to adapt very quickly and very efficiently to this change. And some of the customers are really doing a fantastic job at that. But there's certain elements that obviously we need to explore a little bit more for them.
Yeah, I suppose the social distancing must have had imposed a big challenge on them in their plants.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have some customers who, to be honest, within their production line, they're very split in the specific areas. So they can work quite solitary and adhere to the social distancing. But the other things that they think about is what they do during break time, what they do at lunch. So it's kind of just changing the way that they work within that environment for the complete shift. I think some of the challenges, though, is more around the people who possibly shared the information, maybe during the morning production meeting, where they would all huddle around one particular machine or some reporting PC, something like that, and that'll give them information about the production the day before, and then have that meeting around that information. So we're seeing that those type of people are actually now home workers. And so that for home workers, they're certainly seeing some challenges. Some of it that they feel that they're doing very well with adapting to home working, but we can still see some potential gaps and some potential learnings for them.
Yeah, so I mean, it's typically the people that are not directly on the line, but need information with what is going on, troubleshoot, things like that. So how do they get over their challenge? How do you work from home and be in the factory at the same time?
Well, absolutely. So what we're seeing at the moment is that quite a number of our customers are actually using VPN as one way of actually gaining access to the plant floor. But how secure that is, we're unsure because we don't always understand the full architectures at the moment. But the key information that they're really trying to gain from the plant floor is kind of historical data, and bringing that out into reports, so key production reports, where they're looking at overall equipment effectiveness and having an understanding about that. But actually it's gone a little bit further, where because they've got this ramp up in production, I mean, some customers have reported a significant increase, anything between 20 and 50%, even more than that. And some of these customers have never seen this ramp up in production in the history of their organization. So they're very concerned about accessing information off that line. They don't want to necessarily do anything intrusive with the systems that they're currently running at the moment. But
yeah, so
what it's presented though is bottlenecks, and understanding where the bottlenecks are in that production.
well, the moment you said VPN, you know, I've got a little bit of a chill there, because that is notoriously one of the most dangerous security, you know, things in the security world that, you know, that you really need to have a tight grip on. And if you're running critical production like that, it could present a possible, you know, security a problem for you. I don't know, Andy, if you've got experience in that.
Yeah, and I guess there's a lot of onus on the IT organization, or the IT part of the organization, to ensure that is secure. But to the point that you were just mentioning earlier, Linda, around how these people need access to the data, if you give them full VPN access, they've got full access to that network, full access to the SCADA, which in some cases is great, but for those people that just need access to the data, would you really want to expose all of that? There's no need to, so why bother?
And so what is the way, what's the secure way that one should be doing this kind of thing?
Well, I should probably share a screen if you're happy to have a look. Just bear with me. So I've got a couple of architectures up here, and the one on the right is the one we're talking to, the security aspect. And there's best practice in here. There's guidelines that you can follow, things like NIST and certifications and stuff. And the best practice is that you follow a demilitarized zone and have a layered approach to your network stack. So there's lots of ways that we could do that to get just data outbound, and then you are following all these secure guidelines. When you're looking inbound, it's slightly different, especially when it comes to that VPN that you mentioned, Ben.
So we're talking here about data. So it means that we just need to get the data out of the plant so that people at home can make better decisions. That's at the end of the day what we're looking for. So
yeah, better, more informed, continuous improvement, spotting the bottlenecks, trying to ramp up production. If that's their key goal, there's got to be people that are looking to do that, and the people on the plant floor are going to struggle at the moment with the amount of production they're having to try and get out the door.
Yeah, and that's what I was sort of mentioning before, that at the moment we have customers who have great systems in place. They're doing a fantastic job of adapting, and they're utilising some of these systems and getting data around, but it does seem to be a lag in information. So they don't necessarily get that information until the day after, and then it makes it a bit harder to really be able to act proactively to any adverse situations that might be happening on the plant. So that's certainly a challenge that the customers are facing at the moment. So certainly looking at this is quite interesting.
Well, Andy, there on your picture, the key thing I can see that you've got on there is a little, well, not a little cloud. You've got two clouds there. You've got a big cloud and you've got a small cloud. So obviously the cloud has got a big role to play in helping solve this conundrum.
Yeah, it's an obvious evolution of what we've been working to over the last X number of years. It's something that Aviva very much been at the forefront of, and particularly when you're looking at data, and it doesn't just have to be data that is, I guess, very similar to what you find on the plant floor, trends and graphs and things to try and work out that analysis. We're talking about modules and things that exist in this cloud environment that allow you to and get much more from the information out of the box. So we are talking about cloud. There's obviously lots of different stacks in between from an information management perspective that we could talk to. We're not going to go into that today because obviously we're constrained with time, and every architecture is different, but there's so many different ways that we can get this data out of these systems. And you mentioned earlier before, Linda, about being non-intrusive. We don't want to touch these production networks because they're running flat out. We don't want to affect them in any way. We've always been agnostic. There's many ways that we can connect to existing equipment, different SCADA platforms that exist on there. We obviously have our native connections to our own SCADA platforms. For anything that sits outside of that, things like OPC are always a common route to go down to pull that data out. And we even deal with CSV files with customers. And there's some very clever drivers out there that we partner with to be able to make this a realization. And you could do that just by sticking a new box in there in a secure manner, in that architecture in the right way, to ensure that you're not compromising that security at the process level.
By the way, sorry, there's one thing I forgot to mention right in the start. Lisa just prodded me. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but she told me that if you've got any questions during our session, just go to the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and just post your questions in there, and then at the end we will answer them. Okay, Linda, you were about to say something.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for covering that, Andy. It's really interesting how we can connect to systems that are not necessarily our systems. As long as we can get that data and present that data up to the cloud, then it's definitely achievable and very non-invasive way of doing it. The other thing and feedback that I'm getting from my customers really is because they're all home workers now, some of them might have the skill set and they might be technical where they could develop a system where they're not necessarily reliant on other people or maybe outside contractors. How easy is it really to develop a system like this within the cloud environment?
Well, I mean, some of the natural benefits of cloud is that you're not having to worry about the infrastructure at all. It's a completely self-service software as a service application that sits up there that's managed by Aviva. You have the direct links into it, but you're filling out forms. You're not having to configure software as you know it, that your systems integrator would go and configure a historian, set up a SCADA application on plant to do something. This is self-service. This is something that lives there. The configuration lives at that edge level, and that really depends on your architecture. If you're running the latest versions of the software, it already has publisher built in. We have secure link software that links through a proxy through that demilitarized zone, so that you're not having to worry about things like whitelisting and blacklisting of applications. They do all that for you. The key then is just working out what you've got at the edge, what we need to install at the edge, and how much engineering is required to do that. And then I can show you a demo shortly around what exists in that cloud environment, so you get a good feel for it.
Well, I think, yeah, if you can just go into it.
Okay. So if you go to online.wonderware.eu, that's our EU data center. So that obviously based on data legislation and things, you might want to store information in different places. So they have one in Australia and one in the States, and you'll be presented with a screen like this. I've just maximized my browser. That's why I've not got the bar at the top. But in here, you can just try it free. So you could just go in and have a look at some of the sample data, and that's exactly what I'm going to do for you guys today. So when we come into here, we're presented with a home screen. And the home screen is completely self-service. So you don't do anything to build this up. Per user, so per the user that has signed into the application, and it's all web-based, so you don't install anything. It will provide suggested content. So this is content that you've previously looked at in the past. So it's just presenting you with the information that you've been looking at, so it's readily available. You'll also see something called a news feed. Now the news feed is slightly more than anomaly detection, but it's completely self-service. So what they do is look at the last 2 weeks worth of data and it will consider things that the tags and things that you look at more often, and it will look for anomalies in that information, and it will try to present it to you before something might occur. So it's not quite predictive analytics, but it will start to tell you that something is moving slightly out of kilter. If the information is useful to you, then you can give it a little thumbs up or a thumbs down, and it will show you more or less of that type of information, and all those things go on. Also shows you things like comments in your historian. The next thing you probably can see on the screen there is the search tool, which is much more aligned with the likes of something like Google. So as soon as you start to type, it starts to automatically fill in for you, and you don't have to know the specific tag names, the engineering units, the data that exists. You can just be quite fluid with it, and it will present you with results. So there it says it's going to bring back 22 tags. If I click on mountain water treatment, it will add tags to a status board for me. Yes, there's not 22 in there, but there are in total, but you can add or take away these tags through this heading on the right hand side, and this is how we manipulate the information. So this is how we change the chart, and this is your standard data analysis. This is showing us, and you can do things very simply out of the box because there's lots of built-in calculations to Historian that allow you to look at things like time in state for a particular discrete value. Good to get some immediate view of how long equipment's been running for, you know, up or down. But we do have a slightly more clever module that exists as part of this. I'll show you shortly that's included with that. And what we can also do is an element of condition management in here. So I can add comments, or I can add alerts. So adding a comment, we'll just add a comment to this to say, this is an operator can say, this is a reason why something was going slightly awry. I can do that for me or for the entire team, or I can add alerts. And alerts will do multi-condition. So I can say, trigger this alert when all or any of the conditions occur. And it will either send it as a push notification to a mobile device or to an email address of my choosing, or multiple email addresses, so it can go in and start to have a look at it. And originally with this was always done with just a single tag, but now we've started to build in this condition management function. We can now do this against multiple tags, choose how we want it to be displayed per tag on that screen.
Is it possible then to do some automated stuff with that, Andy? Like, you know, if you detect a condition, automatically get some action happening?
Yeah, you can do. Because it's all read-only information, there is an open API that will allow you to tap into it and use things like Microsoft Azure apps. So if you wanted to route out into, say, maintenance system, you could say, I know that based on these conditions, I need to order a new part. I could send off a new work order to a maintenance system to tell it to go and do that, and then we could start to action it in a separate system.
That would be really good to be able to do that remotely. Fantastic.
There's lots of things you can do with it, because I mean, Microsoft Azure have got so many apps up there. But I'll take you back to the homepage just to show you a bit more detail about things like the dashboarding, just very quickly. So these are dashboards that are built up based on keywords. So every time you save a piece of content, so like that trend that I showed you before, you can save that. And if you save it with a keyword like valley or water, you can automatically build these dashboards. This is introducing now the visualization, so the graphics. And these are just bitmaps. So you upload a bitmap, you drag your tags on screen, you choose how you want it to be displayed. But this is showing near real-time information. So very much to what you talked about earlier, Linda. And there's no reason why you couldn't convert some of the graphics that you've got on plant to a bitmap. You know, you've got them in your applications. It's very easy to just upload them and do that configuration. And then also things like, you know, your trends and things can live in here too. There's also things like the maps. So if this was in a geographically dispersed area, we could have the different assets that live over different areas and physically see those on a map. And these are just dashboards. So, I mean, this was geared up for at a glance view, I guess, great for managers, great for following this lockdown, or even during the lockdown, to have these on big displays in your plant floor to really encompass that social distancing, make sure that people aren't getting too close, but actually at a glance they can see all these key KPIs running on the screen.
Yeah, I think that's we have actually the question through on the chat asking if Business Insight is available on premise.
There is an element of Insight available on premise. It's just a historian client tool, so it will do some of the trending capabilities, but it isn't a fully fledged replica of exactly what you see here. I mean, part of the benefit of it being cloud-based is that every quarter we're getting updates to this automatically appearing inside of it. It doesn't display things like the anomaly detection I showed you earlier on. There's no graphics available in the on-premise version, but there is this on-premise that looks similar to like those trends that I was showing you earlier. It also can't do things like push notifications, and it's just a
And is there any other the box type stuff that you get with it as well?
Yeah, so there's a little bit more. I've only just shown you some of the data analysis side, really. But if you, for example, look at this asset view here, if you're running something like System Platform, this is a completely automated scenario. So your model view inside a System Platform will publish and populate the information inside of this asset view in here. So we've not had to build any of these screens. Based on the System Platform model, it's automatically put them in there. There's no geolocation defined, so it doesn't display a map, but you can see we've got some efficiency in here. The news associated with this particular process is also here, and any associated content that we can go to quickly. And it's also got things like journal entries. So in here, especially if you're running 24/7, a operator can just add a journal entry to this particular asset to say that something's been changed, something's updated, and then the next person that comes on shift can ensure that they have a look at it in more detail. And you can break this down and get a bit further into perhaps the different locations. In the interest of time, I'll move on to the next section, which is all around equipment efficiency. And this touches again on one of the points you were mentioning earlier, Linda. So this shows us effectively a Gantt chart of our downtime occurrences for our particular assets. And I choose one that's got good and bad production inside of it, so we get the full OEE figure associated inside of it, because we're doing it based on production run. So we're inputting the amount of cases we're expecting to make, where we're up to, and what the equipment state is. And then the operators inside of here can go in and they can manually change these downtime occurrence reasons if there's something that hasn't been picked up. So there's lots of automated responses you can do for this. The PLC will obviously have lots of detail in there around whether things have been running or stopped. They may even have these reasons built into it, and you can pull that through. But if they haven't, you can ensure that the user quickly does that. And again, giving that manager that really key insight as to exactly what's happening on the plant floor.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely key. As a remote worker as well, they do feel a bit more empowered with the information that they're able to utilize and feed that back to the key operational staff on site to make any adjustments or changes to ensure that they reach that production run, because it's just critical at the moment for them.
There's a question that's come through. Is it necessary to have a static IP address for this access? In Ireland, we cannot get SIM cards with static IPs unless we set up an APM with a provider.
In terms of accessing this web page, no, there's no problem, because as soon as it's in the cloud, it's an open system. From the publisher perspective, if that's what they're referring to, storing the data, the only thing that's required is that outbound connection, as far as I'm aware.
And what I'm aware of there is you just need it's a security token that is used, so it's not via fixed IP address. Yeah,
and it does the whitelisting through the proxy based on the sites that it's trying to access.
There was another question around where it's a highly secure environment. Can you use things like data diodes?
That's one thing that you you can't use in this scenario. There's too many. We have looked into that before. There's quite a lot of detail around it. They're too restricted, the data diode, to be able to get that data outbound.
But I'm sure
it's a short answer, but there is a longer one. I assure you, we have done that investigation. Data diodes in general, they certainly introduce a new level of security to the mix.
Sure.
Is there any other questions in there?
No, I think that's all questions we have up to now. Yeah, is there anything else you want to show, Andy? But it looks very impressive, yes.
I mean, from this, then you can just get the reporting side of it. So it'll give you some analysis of that information so that you can start to look at the number of occurrences, and it will break it down by time. So to go into a bit more detail. So yes, there's been X number of downtime occurrences, but sometimes it's important to look at how long those occurrences were. So you might have one that was 3 hours or 10 that were, 5 minutes. But without that detail inside of the application, you can't understand where the biggest problems lie. But as soon as you can start to knock some of the top ones off the list, that's when you'll start to be able to get much better throughput.
So key question to me is how quickly if somebody is interested in this, how quickly can they get up and running?
The system is very self-service, so everything you see and the way you configure it is all through this web portal. I'm not inside of our own installation. I'll through the try it now data, but the administration pane is essentially where you would do the configuration. So like I say, if you're not pulling up your own downtime reasons, you can manually do that through CSV files. So you can enter your own downtime reasons and then just upload it to the web browser, and it automatically populates the system.
What I mean is to get the whole system up and running.
The actual data itself. So as soon as you start storing data to it, as soon as you click in this search field, your tags will appear there, and you can start to build your system. You can, within minutes, you can upload a graphic, drop tags on top of it. You can put more tags inside of trend files. You can save them off. You can, that it's incredibly self-service at that point.
I believe that there's some special offers we got at this period of time. Well, I think we've had it for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Aviva have always provided a 40-day trial, but in response to COVID-19, they've actually extended this to the 30th of June. So as Andy's just showing now, you just need to access the website and sign up.
And just sign up from there. And if one then goes, because I suppose the thing here is this is not just, it wouldn't be a short-term investment, it would be something for the long term. The licensing, is that that I'm assuming it's subscription-based licensing on number of tags and data throughput?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a number of different packages depending on how much data you're going to store and how often, the frequency of the data rate as well. Each come with a couple of users, and there's 2 different type of users as well. So you have your standard user, which gives you the key operational information, but then you have the operations user, which then taps into more of the condition-based monitoring and also the equipment effectiveness and the OEE, that type of thing. But this particular trial does cover all of that, so you'll get access to that full suite, and then moving forward, depending on how you want to progress with the solution, then you can have access to all, or you can change. That's not a problem. It's very flexible.
So guys, thank you very much. It's really been insightful for my use.
Well done.
One more quick question, asking how many users do we get with the trial?
So I think, as far as I'm aware, that's unlimited. Within the packages, per package, but then you can add users on top.
Okay.
It's fine.
All right, we'll get you the exact answer on that one. Okay, so I think our time has run out. We've got like a minute left. So I just want to thank all my panelists. Andy, Linda, thank you very much. And guys, if you need more information, please get in touch with us. I think I just got this feeling now we're going to make this a weekly webinar. Why don't we, Lisa? You agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks for joining us and have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.